What up, people? Your man's riding Dolo today, man. The boy Jovi is down in South Beach. So I am tackling this review alone where we will talk about a sequel to a movie Jovi and I both found to be less than mid. Good news is the sequel is better. Bad news is, unfortunately, you probably have to watch the first one before you watch this one. We're talking Smile 2, sponsored by Voss Water. Hey, what's going on, people? Sorry for I just noticed my mic was not actually hooked up correctly, so sorry if the intro sounded a little bad. And also, I'm using the streaming camera that I normally use, the DSLR that we use for reviews. It's been kidnapped. We'll have to get it back soon, but I'm gonna try to make this quick, even though I have a lot to say about this movie. Went to the screener brought to us by the Grand Shucket. If you haven't checked them out, you should. I'm gonna drop their socials in here. They're actually like a news site. Jovi and I, we talk about we review movies and video games and comic books and stuff like that, and we talk about whatever's on our mind and cool. But if you want like daily news and daily updates, like casting announcements, what studios are working on, what projects have been greenlit and stuff, give the Grand Shucket a follow. They'll keep you up to date. All right, really should plug them. They're cool people. Anyway, Smile 2. Directed by Parker Finn, is his name. Written and directed by this man who did the first one, which I was not a fan of. I really did not like the main. That's 80% of the reason I didn't like the movie. I did not like the characters in that movie, and it just wasn't scary to me until maybe like the last 10 minutes where I was like, oh, okay, that's creepy. But this one, got greenlit soon after the first one came out because the first one was a massive hit, and we get this sequel, which I do like better. Now, if you don't know anything about this, you really should watch the first one, even though I just kind of crapped on it, because that's where you'll get all your exposition. This movie, it's not going to tell you anything, like especially the way it starts. This one picks up, I think it's like 5 or 6 days after the first one ends. So it really is not interested in like holding your hand, and you're not really going to get what's going on until maybe it's like an hour into the movie where there's a quick 5-minute recap of the first movie. So you're going to kind of be lost, and you might not enjoy it as much if you don't know what's happening. Now, to help you out, this movie is about there's an entity. There's an entity, some sort of like demonic parasite, I think is what they call it. And it latches on to somebody and basically haunts them until it makes them kill themselves. How does it haunt them? Well, it makes them hallucinate some seriously messed up stuff. We're talking like, you'll get in your car and you'll just think you see like a decapitated head in the passenger seat. You'll open your closet, you'll see just like a disfigured body hanging in there. You'll look in the mirror and then you'll just see somebody like bleeding to death. But then, you turn around, you look away, and it's not like actually there. So you just think you're going crazy. But it mostly appears to you. It just lets you know that it's following you by appearing to you in the form of some person with a giant smile on their face. An unmoving smile they're just staring at you, not saying a word. It's very unnerving. Now, after it's had its fun torturing you, it will possess you, make you kill yourself, and it always makes you kill yourself in front of a witness. This witness basically inherits that parasite, and now the parasite has infected that witness and does the same thing until it makes this person kill himself in front of another witness. And that's how it jumps from body to body to body. So the point, they're basically trying to figure out how to stop this cycle so that, I don't end up, or so that the person, rather not me, but so that the person ends up like not killing themselves. This time, our infected person is played wonderfully by the actress Naomi Scott, and her name is Sky. Sky is a pop star who has gone through some trauma, which automatically just levels this movie up so much more than the first one, because she's a much more interesting and like more relatable character than the first one. Not that Sky is smart or anything, but the lady in the first one, I think she was a doctor. She was some sort of academic, and the dumb decision she made time after time after time, it made me so angry. And the fact she's actually like a boring character. Sky is anything but boring. Her life is a train wreck. And Yeah, yeah. Let's get into my sours and sweets though. Yeah, so off the jump, the sour, I will say, I actually was checking my watch. Not because like I was out of the movie or anything, but I was like, yo, it's been a long time. And this woman, Sky, like she has no idea what's happening to her. So again, this is for people who may not have seen the first one, and I don't know how many people in the audience are like that. But if you're coming into this because you just want to watch something, you're not really gonna know what's happening. You're gonna be like Sky in the movie, and there's a lot of stuff happening to her, and you might enjoy like like the scares or the blood and the gore and Sky's life in general, just her train wreck of a life. But the weird stuff that's happening, you're not really understanding why it's happening to her, where it's coming from, how she got it. Like all these questions are going to be in the back of your head because the movie is just, again, it's not interested in holding your hand. It expects you to watch the first one. So I don't know if that's really a sour, but the movie doesn't actually give Sky any information until seriously, like an hour and 10 minutes in. So we as the audience know what's going on, but she doesn't know what's going on. And because her life is so messed up and she's on a bunch of different drugs, and she's had trauma in her past or whatever, she just thinks she's crazy. And that kind of it's not bad, but it kind of just makes it to your point where you're like, yo, I need you to figure out what's happening so we can try to fix this. Next, jump scares. If you don't like jump scares, don't watch this movie. Don't watch the first one either. That's all this movie is. And it's a real shame because, I mean, it lends itself to being that like atmospheric horror that I like. Like, there is something only you can see, and it's torturing you specifically, and no one else can believe you. So whenever you're alone, you don't actually know if you're alone. And, when it's doing like the psychological stuff to this person, that was really cool to me. And I was like, yo, I'm legit, like, I'm like terrified. I even caught myself like looking at the corner of my eye one time. But all the jump scares, I mean, they're effective. The people in my theater jumped. But to me, it's just, if that's all you're doing, it's so annoying because it's like, okay, it's quiet. It's too quiet. Something's about to happen. Then there it goes. A glass breaks, a glass of Voss water, which is all over this movie. Like we know who paid for this. But anyway, a glass breaks. There's a super loud sound, and then someone jumps out, and then they may or may not actually be there. Jump scares they're really not for me, and there are just way too many of them in this movie for me. Now, something else. If you watch the first one, right, you know what this demonic parasite is and how it operates and all that stuff. So you can kind of infer what has to happen at the end of the movie, or for the climax of the movie, I should say. And knowing that, I know, it's more about the journey than the end for a lot of things, but knowing that, it kind of just, I guess there was a predictability because I'm like, well, obviously, this has to happen before the movie ends. And yeah, it definitely, what I thought would happen did happen. And I bet that was the same for a lot of people. So, kind of a bit of a, I guess, I don't want to say let down because, again, getting there was pretty fun, but it is pretty predictable. Although I will say, this movie left me in a state where I'm like, yo, I really want to see Smile 3. Way more than Smile 1 left me in a state saying I wanted to see Smile 2. Like, I'm actually looking forward to a sequel to this one. So, Naomi Scott is phenomenal in the role of Sky. She is so good that honestly, if I like just watching her story, they could have made a movie about this pop star Sky. She brought so much just relatability to this character, and so much realness to this character. Like, so she's a pop star and she's dealing like with excuse me. She had just recovered from a car crash that killed somebody that she was close to. Everyone in her life that she was close to, has basically told her she's a horrible person because she was addicted to drugs and she just was like not being very nice to them. To the point where the only people she talks to are her mom, who's her manager, and everyone involved in her musical life as she's preparing for this comeback tour. Now there's not like a lot. We learn a lot about this girl outside of the horror movie, and the fact that Naomi Scott made me care about her as a character just it says so much. So, like I said, Sky doesn't know what's happening, and it's kind of a double edged sword where if you're the audience member, you're like, I don't know what's going on because like in a movie like Final Destination, it does not take them very long to say, hey, you were supposed to die because you didn't, and death is chasing you. In this movie, she's hallucinating, she's seeing these things, but she's gone through so much trauma that she's just like, yo, I'm just bugging, I'm crazy. So she writes it off. She really is just like a tortured soul. And even if she weren't being hunted by this thing, you would feel sympathetic for her and be like, yeah, I want you to get out of this toxic world that you're in. Like, again, the way her mother and her supposed friends treat her when all they see her. I mean, that's how it probably is a lot of the music industry, where you're just seen as a commodity and your feelings are made irrelevant. So very relatable, very convincing. She was actually kind of funny when she needed to be. And yeah, I believed the pain that she was in. So kudos to her. She did a great job. Now, something else this movie did better than the first one. This movie was funny. Now, and there were like quite a few moments where the theater we kind of just chuckled out loud during like this horror movie. And it wasn't like slapstick funny. It was like characters actually saying stuff that was like legit hilarious. And yeah, it got more than a few chuckles out of me. So I did like that, there was some levity being brought, in between these just super gory scenes that was happening. Speaking of, even though I hated the jump scares, the other horror elements of this movie, oh, they were A1. The psychological stuff, the body horror stuff. I mean, like, there's some stuff in here that like you're not you might jump back in your chair when you see. Human bodies do things they're not meant to do in this movie, so you're warned there. I loved it. It's not quite as like Terrifier 3 level. Don't worry about that, but yeah, it goes there. Now, the other thing that I think this probably is the second biggest thing outside of Naomi Scott that I loved about this movie. Like the first one, like I said, this thing makes you hallucinate, so you're not sure what's real. This one amps it up in a way that the first one didn't, because Sky doesn't like. There are many instances where it comes to where you find out that like there's a whole sequence that just didn't happen. It didn't actually happen with Sky. So it gets to a point where you're like, yo, Sky, are you actually in this place or are you not in this place? Is this person actually here or are they not here? Is this person dying or are they not dying? Like, are you actually learning something or is this thing tricking you? And I love that because it's like you're watching someone who's an unreliable narrator or narrator, let me enunciate. And you're watching this person and you're just like, yo, I don't know if I can trust what I'm seeing. It keeps you guessing. Throughout the entire runtime, you're constantly guessing, constantly analyzing, constantly thinking about, yo, Sky, are we really doing this or are we not doing this? There's one scene in particular where I thought actually happened, and I was like, yo, Sky, this, there's no way. Then it turns out it wasn't real, and I was like, oh man, got me. Yeah, man. So Smile 2 really just stepped everything up from the first one. It was just, better characterization, better narrative, a much better main character, and just overall better time at the movies. I really think that if you like horror, you're gonna like this one. If you like the first one, you'll like this one more. If you didn't like the first one, I think you should give this one a chance. I'm gonna go ahead and give Smile 2 a 3.5. Thank you so much for sticking with me, guys. Until next time, I'm out.